Don't mind the fact that I just watched the entire season the day it released and decided to make a video with the exact same structure as the Fiona and Cake video. I mean, cut me some slack. This month has just been banger after banger, and if I don't have an outlet to talk about these awesome shows, I think I'm gonna explode! Castlevania. I have been really interested in the Castlevania franchise lately, and within the last month or so, I've played like 3 Castlevania games, and I just finished watching the first Castlevania series literally a couple of days ago. So when I found out that Castlevania Nocturne was dropping on Netflix only a few days later, I was extremely hyped. You see, I really liked the first Castlevania series, although it did have some flaws that kept it from being as great as I think it could have been. I think the first 2 seasons of the show were kind of mid, all things considered. Like, I wasn't really that invested in the Dracula's Army storyline and the surprisingly large cast of characters it shoved in our face all at once. If I were to pinpoint where I think it went wrong in those first 2 seasons for me, it was a lack of real character development combined with horrible pacing. The show did try to have character moments somewhat consistently, but those scenes would be weirdly short, oftentimes being the last scene of the episode and cutting to the end credits before any meaningful dialogue had been shared between the characters. In fact, my biggest pet peeve with the show as a whole was how the episodes would just unceremoniously end out of nowhere, leaving me feeling like nothing substantial happened. A friend of mine theorized that the first 2 seasons were originally written to be movie-length, and at some point late in production, they were haphazardly carved into 20-minute episodes for some unknown reason. This would explain why those 2 seasons are abnormally short, with 4 and 8 episodes respectively, but the point is, it feels awful to finish an episode and not immediately watch the next one, because the only time you feel satisfied with taking a break is when the season is over. I will say that seasons 3 and 4 of Castlevania really worked for me, and I really have no strong criticisms of either season. They were both really well done. So now that you know my thoughts on the franchise, let's finally get around to Castlevania Nocturne. Much like my video on Fiona and Cake, I will only really talk about the first few episodes and the general plot, as I definitely don't want to spoil the show for y'all in a video trying to convince you to watch it. That would just be stupid. Anyway, Castlevania Nocturne follows Richter Belmont, the great-great-great-great-grandson of Trevor Belmont. I haven't yet played a Castlevania game where Richter was a playable character, unless you count Smash Ultimate, but still knowing of him going into the show made it that much more exciting. Richter is considerably younger than how old Trevor was in his show, and is therefore still finding his way under the pressure of being a Belmont. After watching his mother be brutally murdered by a vampire with a vendetta, Richter, traumatized by what he has seen, moves to France to live with his last remaining relatives, being his Aunt Tara and his cousin Maria. Integral to the rise of the French Revolution, Maria is a young activist who also fights alongside Richter against vampires with their magically tamed animals. Her mother, Tara, also knows her way around the battlefield with the powers of a speaker mage, similar if not exactly the same as Sypha's powers from the previous show. Catching wind of an alliance between the church and the undead, the Belmont gang put everything on the line to prevent a grand conspiracy from sucking the blood out of all of France. Soon into their fight, they are aided by a powerful magic wielder named Annette, and a former opera singer accompanying her on her mission named Edouard. To counteract the good guys, the vampire cultists are worshipping a new god, the Queen of Vampires. With influential figures at her service like the extremely powerful vampire warlord Drolta and the Forge Master Abbot who can expand her army of the undead, this vampire messiah is the most calamitous foe the Belmont clan may have ever faced. Now that I've introduced most of the cast to you, let me just say now that the best thing this show has going for it is these characters. Every single character here has a strongly written backstory and a flowing character arc throughout the season that leads to exciting places and new surprises with each episode. Between Richter's ongoing trauma with the vampire that killed his mother, Tara's similarly troubled past with the vampire warlord, Maria's personal beef with the church, Annette's past as an escaped slave under the rule of a vampire plantation owner, and even more surprising but amazing plot threads that I refuse to spoil, this show is a feast of rich stories. There are at least 3 or 4 moments in this short season that made me say, "Holy shit!" at how incredible they are. And that is especially true for the last minute of the last episode. Trust me, I want to talk about that so bad, but alas, I will restrain myself. But holy shit, it is amazing. Overall, Castlevania Nocturne has a really solid first season and is easily on track to be the better of the 2 series from my perspective. If I convinced you at all to give this show a shot, please consider subscribing, and I'll keep making more videos like these. I would also love to discuss everything about this show in the comments with y'all, so once you've seen it, come back here and let's talk about that ending. Alright, that's enough said. Adios.